as they build up the power of the East, they are dismantling the power of the West, financially in this case, but in all other areas as well. And when I spoke earlier about politicians who represent the cult, not the people of the country they're supposed to represent, well, the sanctions against Russia is a wonderful example, because they weren't sanctions on Russia at all. They were sanctions on the West. I mean, it's all a game. And it's to kid ourselves that there are two sides fighting each other, when actually there's one side fighting you.
Popular speaker, self-published writer, and former BBC sports commentator David Icke recently commented on reports about Saudi Arabia and the petrodollar. A few weeks ago, reports made the rounds, alleging that the 50-year agreement between the United States and Saudi Arabia that allowed the creation of the petrodollar had been allowed to expire. A little background. Petrodollars, a term popularized in the mid-70s, are US dollars earned by countries through the sale of oil and other petroleum products. Through the decades, petrodollars have had significant implications for the US economy, including ensuring increased demand for US dollars and lower borrowing costs for the US government and consumers. According to experts, the end of petrodollars means increased de-dollarization, as countries will have no need to hold on to the huge piles of dollars they've accumulated over the years. As these dollars return to the US, they will flood the market, leading to excess money supply and potentially record levels of inflation and other economic challenges for the world's largest economy. This is the future that David Icke predicts for the US economy and other Western countries. In a recent video, he unveils a plot by what he describes as a global cult to shift power from the West to the East. Icke believes this grand plan is behind many recent events, including the sanctions against Russia, which, he argues, have hurt the US and other Western countries more than Russia. Icke's message is a call to action. He warns that more events are on the horizon that will further weaken the US economy and the dollar. His advice is to look beyond the immediate East-West dynamics and focus on the bigger picture, which is the global cult that he believes is pulling the strings. Icke believes the cult has representatives in governments worldwide, whether it is the US or Russia, and will stop at nothing to achieve its aims. Icke also warns about an imminent explosion of the US banking sector, an event he says will set it all off. We will present clips from Icke's video. But before we do, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also drop your comments and observations in the comments section below to help this video reach more viewers. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
We are looking at the West being dismantled from within by those politicians that are put there by the global cult. I mean, you can see aspects of it with the World Economic Forum and its young leaders that turn up later to be the leaders of Western countries and non-Western countries too. But that's what's going on. You know, these people like Starmer, Prime Minister of Britain, the people around Biden, not Biden, I don't know what he's doing, but the people around Biden, they're representing the cult. The people around Trump, despite what is his natural constituency, which is not wanting this stuff, the people immediately around him will be those that are representing the cult. So it's not about national governments. It's about that which is controlling national governments. And as you rightly say, Saudi Arabia has had its orders. They're going to drop the dollar, and they drop the dollar, and the implications are going to be enormous. Well, the banks, as I said earlier, are holding on for dear life. You've got an economy. Again, I'll use the same analogy I've used many, many times. The global economy, not least the American economy, is like those cartoon characters who are chasing each other. And they're chasing each other across the land. And they're so concentrating on chasing each other, they don't realize when they run off the edge of a cliff. But they keep going forward, even though there's fresh air underneath them. And then eventually one of them looks down, sees what the situation is, and they all fall into the ravine. And that's the global economy. It's all based on confidence. I mean, what is a dollar worth, right? It's a piece of paper with some printing on it. So it's worth nothing. What its value comes from is what people perceive its value to be. It's all a mind game. It's all a confidence trick. And if you believe that it's worth a lot of money, you will then invest in it, and you'll buy dollars. If you think it's on its arse, then that's the last thing you're going to do is buy dollars. So the whole thing comes down. And so, given that the banking system is already in a perilous state, not least in America, not only in America either, then what is this going to do? It's going to exacerbate that situation. I think you're going to see, as the weeks and months unfold, you're going to see a lot more banks go bust. Smaller banks to start with, maybe, but then the bigger ones start. The situation with inflation, the situation with price increases from a falling dollar. I mean, the more the dollar loses value, the less it can buy, and the more dollars you're going to need to buy what you bought before. It's called inflation. So the implications and the potential consequences, Jay, of this decision are, it's not possible to overstate them. And this is the start, you see. It's a big step because it's Saudi Arabia and the oil and all the rest of it. But you're going to see more and more people doing this, more and more countries doing this. And it's just going to go on worsening, because as they build up the power of the East, they are dismantling the power of the West, financially in this case, but in all other areas as well.
Even those who downplay the threat to the dollar's status as the global reserve currency acknowledge that the expiration of the Petrodollar agreement could weaken the dollar over time. This would affect U.S. financial markets, especially the bond market, and lead to increased price inflation for American consumers. According to global economists, the United States' ability to issue dollar debt and earn dollars for exports will diminish, and the nation's economy will shrink. If other nations no longer need dollars for trade, the demand for dollars could drop significantly, creating a surplus and causing a rapid devaluation of the greenback. Interest rates on U.S. Treasury bonds would skyrocket, a dire situation for a government with over $34.89 trillion in debt. Yet Icke warns that the carnage cannot be stopped, as it is the will of the real global superpowers. Let's get back to the video.
And when I spoke earlier about politicians who represent the cult, not the people of the country they're supposed to represent, well, the sanctions against Russia is a wonderful example, because they weren't sanctions on Russia at all. They were sanctions on the West. It was the sanctions that pushed up energy prices and helped to fuel inflation. And all it did from a Russian point of view is move them closer to China. People like China and India started filling the gap that the West was filling before in terms of buying Russian energy and other goods. And it's basically fused that BRICS alliance even more. And I remember in that interview you mentioned with Putin and Tucker Carlson, that Putin said at one point, "I don't understand. They put sanctions on Russia, but it's hurting the West. I don't understand." Well, you bloody do understand, Mr. Putin, because you know exactly why that was done, because you're in on it as well. Let's not kid ourselves. This is a global situation. I mean, okay, the cult is going to control all these different countries, but it's not going to control a country as pivotal as Russia. Are you having a laugh? It's a game. It's a perceptual game. And so he well knew that the sanctions against Russia were actually sanctions on the West. And it's all brought this about. And, more sanctions that have now been announced has led to this situation where the Russian stock market has stopped the trading with euros and dollars. I mean, it's all a game. And it's to kid ourselves that there are two sides fighting each other when actually there's one side fighting you. It's like I've said so many times, know the outcome and you'll see the journey. The outcome is a AI perceptually controlled population that is further controlled by a digital currency, which allows them to take fines and anything they want from your bank account at will. And an AI destroyed job market, which leaves people at the mercy of a guaranteed income, a universal guaranteed income, which would be a pittance. And if you don't accept it, then there will be consequences. And in terms of, well, how are you going to put food on the table then? And if you want to speak out when the universal basic income comes in, we allow it, then you'll lose your universal basic income because you can't challenge the government and get it at the same time. This is where it's going. Now, the bulwark to that is personal savings and access to an independent income outside of the system's control.
David Icke and other speakers like him have been warning about this global cult and its grand plans to continue to dominate and subjugate the rest of us. At the moment, Icke believes the plan is to strengthen the East and weaken the West to ensure the populace is more welcoming of its radical ideas. This could very well be the end of the free world and the end of everyone brave enough to challenge the grand plans of dominance and control. With the West captured, completely dominated, and silenced, there will be no challenge whatsoever to the cult's rule. It will finally be able to achieve its endgame. If all of these scenarios come to pass, the world could turn into a dystopian nightmare, especially for those who challenge the prevailing narrative. This is why we must resist now, before it's too late, by educating others about what's coming and uniting our communities against these harmful plans. Only with a united voice can we start to reject this dystopian New World Order. Please share your thoughts on Icke's video in the comments section below. Also, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more content. Thanks for watching.